Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with the first of my new series called the Mini Series. Now, this little clip's going to appear at the beginning of most of these videos until I either decide I don't like doing them or it makes sense as to what is going on. And what these are going to be is they're basically just going to be my final thoughts on a bunch of different games that I have that for some reason or another I haven't gotten reviewed yet. It might be I'm having a hard time getting the proper player count. It might be it just came in at a time that was just really hard, or who knows what it might be. Welcome, folks. Today the Hungry Gamer is back with the next mini review, and for this one we're talking about a game that I got a while ago and I was so super excited to try out. And when I first put it out to play it, I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. And I had to reach out to the designer and talk a little bit back and forth, and he sent me some good information, and it makes sense now. I just was being thick, but I had such a backlog. I just couldn't get to it, couldn't get to it. And finally, I've been able to get to it, and now I want to get my final thoughts on camera. And so this one is Spell Saga, the tabletop novel it's called. And there's several decks of these. Each one is kind of a new story as you go through each one. And this is a solo-only style game, and it plays out, the story plays out through your deck of cards. And you are playing this last minstrel in this kind of apocalyptic world where you travel around, kind of a Dark Tower gunslinger style. So you also are a minstrel and you sing songs, you have a lute, you know, this cursed revolver. And as you're moving around, you'll be taking your deck of cards, and the cards represent everything. Some cards will be place cards that you're kind of putting out around the table to create a board that you're able to move from place to place to place. Your cards also represent your armors. You get some cards that wind up being your health and they're face down, and as you get stronger and stronger, you get to have more and more and more of those cards. At the same time, other cards you take, you put them face down, they're called, you become your source, which is your wallet, basically, because you're going to use those to purchase other cards and make certain cards activate. Then you have these story cards, which is obviously your story that you're going through, and those will go out, and the number of story cards you have will determine the amount of source that you can have. And also the amount of story cards that you have is going to determine which enemies are going to pay attention to you, because if you're too weak and too small, they just ignore you and they just kind of wander off. And the same thing with different places that you're going to discover. If you're too low in the story pool, they're not going to come out. They're just going to cycle to the bottom of the deck. And as you're going through, what's going to be happening is you're going to be kind of building up your tableau of different items, and hopefully if you're lucky you'll get some allies that are going to come out and help you and journey with you as you're moving through this story. I'm being very vague about it because it is it's a story, and I don't want to spoil any of it. So let me just jump right into what my thoughts are about what do I like about this game. First of all, I like the art on this. And really, if you know me, you know that art's what will grab me pretty much all the time. It's, what does it look like? Is there something interesting about it? Is it whimsical, or is it just awesome, as it were? But whatever it is, there's no rhyme or reason to what it is I like, but I do like this art. It really does grab me. It's interesting. And in addition to that, I like the amount of story that you get, because there is a good amount of story in this game, but it comes out kind of scattershot because it's in the deck. The deck's getting shuffled and cycled and cut and blah, 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 all these different things. You're finding places, and some places like, okay, now go through and find all these cards, now put these cards out. But maybe you don't get that place, or maybe it comes up and you don't have enough story cards out there, so you're not going to have to deal with it at all. So your story's going to change a little bit every time that you play, and I do like that. It does give a certain amount of replayability to these tabletop novels, as it's called. And even though you will learn the story as you go through, what you don't do is you're not going to get the same story each time. I almost compare it to, it's like you're reading a book But each time you read, you're only going to follow one of the plot lines. You know, if you read some of those epic novels where you follow this character for some chapters and this character for another set of chapters, it's almost like you're only following some of those as you go through. And so it does make for an interesting adventure as you play. I also like the way that the cards are everything. And that helps with the telling of the story, and it helps with making the story different each time. But I like that as you draw cards out of the deck, sometimes they're going to go into your source, sometimes they're going to go into play, sometimes they're going to go into your hand, sometimes it'll be your health, sometimes they're going to go out on the board. And it makes for a very small box that does spread out on the table a little bit, but there's a lot of game in this small box, and I really do like that. And I like the simplicity of how everything works. For the most part, the cards tell you exactly what you need to know, and it all works pretty darn well. So all of that I like. So what are my quibbles with the game? Well, a lot of these quibbles are going to be the same as what I like. The replay value isn't huge. I mean, once you've played it, you do know the story. You got it. Now, there's other decks that you can get, and again, it's not very expensive, but the replay value is not huge. So it's something to keep in mind. And there is a little bit, especially when you start, there's a little bit of wonkiness to it. And that might be because it's just, well, it's different than every other game that I've played. But there is a little bit of time where you're trying to figure out, I don't really understand how this is working. And it takes a little bit longer to grok than I would have expected. And it's just a surprising amount of time. And then the last thing I'll say is, yes, it is a story, but as I said at the beginning, you never get all the same story beats twice. And that might be frustrating to you. If you're looking for a narrative, you might not get a narrative that is particularly satisfying if your luck rolls that way. And along with luck rolling different ways, you could also just get wrecked. I mean, it's possible that you draw these story cards rather quickly, and then you start drawing enemies that can attack you, that aren't going to ignore you because you happen to have these story cards out there. And so in many ways, the game is a little bit unforgiving. And it's not a fast game. It doesn't take forever. It's not hours and hours and hours, but this isn't a game that's you're going to be done in 20 minutes. So you can get 20, 30 minutes in, and then just suddenly, boom. And that might not be for you. But there you have it, folks. That is Spell Saga. This is a unique experience. And I've spoken with the designer a little bit, and the story and what's in this came out of him at a time he was really struggling with hard times in his life. And you can feel, I'm going to be dramatic and say that sadness in a lot of the story, which I think is kind of lovely. And so if you're a solo gamer and you like narrative, you like story, you don't mind if it's not a ton of replayability, though there are other chapters to it, then this could be one that you would like to check out. And I will say Michael Kelly at One Stop Co-op Shop does have a playthrough video of about half of a game, maybe a little bit less than half of a game, and you might want to go check that out as well. I'll put the link to that down in the description also. But there you have it, folks. That is Spell Saga. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.